All right. Okay, let's talk now about some tips and tricks for the planning. Okay, how to plan for the project. And here we will talk about some techniques for collecting requirements and some techniques or some tips and tricks for collecting requirements and some tips and tricks and also techniques for the prioritization. Okay. Now, um, during the training, a lot of people actually they learn the techniques for collecting requirements and the techniques for prioritization for the first time. Actually, they don't know them, and they ask if they should memorize these techniques by heart, or I mean, learn them by heart. Yeah, I mean, you just need to understand the difference between these techniques, really. From the start of the training, and a lot of people, even before joining our PMP training, I tell them upfront, through the entire training, we almost go through almost 300 techniques, processes, artifacts, templates, tools, roles, etc. Almost 300 the total of the things you need to learn, all right? And just the collect requirements and estimation techniques, we're talking almost about 20 techniques here, out of 300. So yeah, I mean, in the PMP exam, you might have a drag and drop question about some of these techniques, or in some of those situational questions, you might have some techniques that will ask what is the best course of action to take, and you will choose an answer that depicts the right technique. Okay, so during the planning and while collecting the requirements, remember that collect the acceptance criteria are actually collecting requirements during waterfall. That happens mainly in the planning phase. Okay, and collecting requirements together with the acceptance criteria. And also in the waterfall, any changes to the scope after the planning phase, that has got to go through the integrated change control process, okay, or perform integrated change control, change management process shortly. However, collecting requirements in Agile, that can happen at any time during the project. Okay. Now, in order to collect requirements in our training, we've seen several techniques, such as expert opinion, having some senior members or specialists provide their opinions on what needs to be part of the scope. The Delphi technique, where we use an anonymous questionnaire, sent to experts. Affinity, that's grouping the related ideas. A nominal group, that's ranking the grouped ideas. Brainstorming, that's gathering the maximum ideas. The focus group, that's a meeting facilitated by a moderator, usually is the project manager. Benchmarking, that's comparing between products, ideas, etc. And then also we can use voting. So there can be unanimous voting where 100% of the people agree. Voting with majority, that's 51% plus. Plurality, that's most votes that count. And dictatorship, that's only one person decides, okay, such as a project manager or a senior member, etc. Okay, for the estimation techniques, Mm, for the estimation techniques, we need to understand what was the meaning of preliminary estimate. That's, a rough order of magnitude with an optimistic 25%, minus 25%, and a pessimistic plus 75%. More precise is the conceptual estimate, with a range of minus 10% as optimistic and plus 25% as pessimistic. And usually a definitive estimate, it should be almost accurate, with the, fluctuation of minus 5% optimistically to plus 10% pessimistically, analogous estimating, that's used to compare between a new project and an old project in case we could not, have some accurate estimates. Okay. It's called also top down. That's comparing with previous project based on total duration and complete cost. Analogous can be comparing with one single project or a range of projects. And usually you use it when you're assigned to a new project and you are incapable of estimating, so remember this, so use it when you are incapable of estimating. Therefore, you need to review the estimates of the previous similar projects, okay? So please remember this. However, bottom-up estimating, that's the most accurate estimating techniques, and we go from bottom to top, whether, calculating the budget or the schedule. Parametric estimating, that's multiplying through measurement units. Three-point estimating, now almost in every PMP exam, there is a question about three-point estimating, and usually it is used when there are no certain estimates or insufficient historical data, okay? And it's got two formulas. The triangular part, that's calculating, or that's summing the pessimistic estimate plus the most likely estimate plus the optimistic estimate and dividing by three, or the beta distribution. And in the beta distribution, we give more weight to the most likely estimate. And usually in the PMP exam, it indicates that actually we've given more weight or more importance to the most likely estimate, and therefore the formula becomes the pessimist estimate plus the optimist estimate plus 4 times the most likely, and all of that divided by 6. Okay, you almost, let me tell you right now, in the PMP exam, there are three types of calculation questions. Okay, in almost all exams, there is this question about the number of communication channels. In most exams, there is this question also about the beta. Actually, one of these three-point estimating formulas. And sometimes there are, not sometimes, almost 50%, there is a question or two about, the performance measurement formulas, mainly the earned value formulas, to determine the cost performance index, schedule performance index, to complete performance index, schedule variance, cost variance, etc., which we will try to see today. Okay. So usually these are the calculation formulas. In the PMP exam, you will have an integrated calculator, okay, in the software, in OnView software. So you will have an integrated calculator in case you will need to, make some calculations. However, I need to give you this tip, please. Now, in case the question actually will take a lot of time from you to calculate it, to calculate the results or the numbers, then flag it, mark it, flag it, continue with the questions, and right before taking the break or right before ending the exam, go back to that calculation question in case you have some time left and do your calculation. Okay. Because some calculation questions, they can take up to 3 minutes, 5 minutes. And remember, you have just 1 minute, 17 seconds per question. Actually, for me, you have 1 minute, 10 seconds. Those 7 seconds, I wouldn't count them because, I would leave them for, reviewing the questions and answers. Okay. So that's my tip for you in case you will have any calculation questions in the PMP exam. Okay. Now, in Agile, estimations or estimates are done based usually on the average velocity of the previous sprints. So, in case you have a question about an Agile team not capable of, estimating, then we can check the average velocity in the previous projects or in the previous sprints. Wideband Delphi, that means the team members discuss the estimates, and after each round, and they reach a convergence. Alternative analysis, that's checking the time and cost of various options to decide which one is the best for the project. And also here, you might want to consider. Sorry, let me just add something. Might consider uh, cost benefit analysis. Okay. So actually, when you are evaluating various alternatives, you might also consider the cost and benefits of each alternative. A spike, usually that's an additional time that is used to dig into a solution or have some research time, especially in some in case of a difficult situation or an issue. A sunk cost that refers to some cost that has already been incurred and cannot be recovered. And usually, sunk cost is not relevant for any future decision making. And usually, in the planning of the project, in case you have a predefined budget or schedule, that is considered as a project constraint. Okay, so these are our tips and tricks for the planning of the project. Okay, and these tips and tricks can be used either in Waterfall or in Agile. Okay, so let's put this in a separate video. Okay, so we are actually progressing with a very good rate.